Welcome to Live on Purpose Radio with Dr. Paul Jenkins, where you will hear inspiring stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Feed your mind with a regular dose of positive energy and show up for your life every day on purpose. Living on purpose means that you have a purpose and you do it intentionally. And now, here's your host, Dr. Paul. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live on Purpose Radio. This is Dr. Paul, the shrink who expands your life, promoting pathological positivity today at Live on Purpose Radio. And I have a fantastic guest with me, Bridget Cook. Welcome, Bridget.
Hello. I'm delighted to be here.
Some of you will recognize her name, and others of you will have no idea who this is because, Bridget, you have built a career, quite an illustrious career so far, I might say, on sharing stories, and many of them are not yours.
Right.
Bridget is an award-winning, best-selling author. Your books have been featured not only on the New York Times bestsellers list, but on Oprah and... I'm forgetting. You mentioned Oprah and what else is there?
Yeah, exactly. What else is there?
Right.
But no, 2020 and Dateline and Dr. Phil
Dr.
and
Phil,
Good Morning
right.
America.
So
in People magazine, been in there a couple times.
So people might recognize your stories before they recognize your name.
That's right.
As
and
you've
I'm
been
fine with that.
And that is really a mark of an excellent author. When it has that kind of an impact. So some of these titles include The Witness Wore Red, which is one of your more recent titles.
Yes.
Exposing some of the polygamist cult leaders and how they were brought to justice through the story of your client in this book.
Yeah, Rebecca Musser, just a woman of extraordinary courage.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the stories you like to highlight, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and that's what it took for her.
We talked about that just before the show, how we're kind of doing the same thing in different ways.
Yes, we are.
Sharing these stories of ordinary people who experience something in their life that has a compelling message to it, and then getting that out to the world in a way that it can change lives.
Yes, absolutely.
It can make a real difference.
Absolutely.
Other titles include Shattered Silence. This is about a serial killer's daughter, Melissa Moore.
Yeah, another extraordinary woman of courage.
Wow. How do you get connected with these people?
Oh, I have stories.
Skinhead Confessions, From Hate to Hope,
Yeah.
about T.J. Layden and some of the, shall we say, disturbing and powerful experiences that he's had.
Exactly. Someone who was filled with so much darkness and rage and was able to turn around and be one of these incredible contributions to society, and teaches kids to stay out of gangs and teaches law enforcement and military what to watch for and teaches kids what true power really is. Right.
So there are principles that you're on the lookout for.
Yes.
You see these stories, you meet these extraordinary people, ordinary people who are experiencing extraordinary things. I like to make that distinction because everyone has a story.
Yes.
True?
Absolutely.
That's the ordinary part.
Mm-hmm.
What we do with that story is what can be extraordinary.
Absolutely. And the character sculpting and the principles that we learn along the way.
Right.
And then how we can apply that and assist other people in their lives to overcome what they're facing and to turn around and create those positive seeds of just, amazing transformation and growth.
Right. Okay, so you've had this remarkable opportunity to get to know some really cool people.
Yes.
And to share their powerful stories with the world.
Mm-hmm.
What are you learning from this? Can I just open it up that wide for you?
Yeah. Well, I'm learning that a lot of people play small in life. A lot of people have allowed their circumstances to determine how big they can play. And most of the time they feel like they have to play really small. Right. And they treat themselves as small, and they treat their circumstances as limitations instead of possibilities. And I've also seen that when these ordinary people face an extraordinary opportunity to break out of that, some people choose to stay in victimhood, and some people choose to rise above and be victors, and to create positive change, and it has this huge ripple out into the world.
How much does it matter what the circumstances are?
Actually, I've come to learn that it matters little what the
Yeah?
circumstances are. What matters is what you make of it, how you see it, how you
Right.
view it in your mind, and then declaring a clear intention that you're going to do something with it, and that you're actually going to turn around and serve somebody else with what you've learned. And then there's incredible power that comes from that.
You mentioned a word just a few minutes ago that always grabs my attention, and that's victim.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me, it doesn't mean a victim of crime or a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's more of a paradigm or a victim way of seeing the world.
Yeah, I call it victim mentality.
Exactly.
So I agree.
So rather than describing a person, we're describing a mode of operation, a
It's
way
really
of being.
a mental operating system that a lot of people in
Right.
life, honestly, that they live their lives from until they recognize that there's a better way to live.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I lived in Denver, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of gang youth and high-risk youth. And, I'd see these kids where mom and dad are gang members and grandma and grandpa are gang members and aunt and uncle, and they lived life in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And they believed they had to go make that drug deal, or they had to sleep with their gang leader, or they had to, go in and shoot somebody who had tried to kill their cousin, because that's the box they lived in until
Right.
someone loved them enough to show them a different way. And then you just see the light come on in their eyes, and they would see that, wow, I really am the captain of my own soul.
Right.
And when that light would turn on, I think we all have that opportunity at different points in our lives to see things in a different manner, and to suddenly go, oh, wow, I don't have to be a victim of my circumstances, my upbringing, my belief systems, whatever it might be. I actually can use that as a springboard into a greater life. And
Right.
that's the miracle.
So the victim mentality would have us plop down in a pile somewhere, point at our circumstances and say, see, that's why my life stinks.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I'm like this, and this is why I'm stuck here, is victim mentality.
And it's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
You heard that one too?
And therefore, I am not responsible for any of the consequences of my actions.
Right.
That's victim mentality. Yeah.
So if we look at the opposite side of that, the people that you and I seek out to share their stories, they have the same circumstances and probably even tougher ones.
Right.
And instead of plopping down in a pile and blaming that for all of their misery, they look at that as this amazing opportunity
Yeah.
to create something even better in this world. And have you noticed this? I think I've said this before on the show. I've been doing this podcast since 2007. Talked to a lot of people, inspiring stories, and every single one of them, without exception, has a hard part in the middle.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah, I get that. Whenever I've had an opportunity to meet with people that are doing extraordinary things, there's been something that they've had to overcome, to prove to
Yeah.
themselves, to do whatever. And so, we often look at things and go, oh, another thing trying to shut me down. What if it was actually, oh, wow, another opportunity to grow and to express myself further,
Yeah. And I think that those hard parts, it's just like a villain in a story. Why is the villain there? It's to illuminate the hero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you even take a project on, Bridget, if there weren't a hard part in there?
Probably not.
You
my
would be
my
so
older
bored.
brother, because serial killers, and
killers.
skinheads and cultists, and he's like,
Oh, man.
why don't you write a book about unicorns and rainbows? And I'm like, you know what,
Lollipops.
I really do. The only thing is I showcase the real stuff along the way, including
Yeah.
those villains and including, the difficult things. And often the villain is within ourselves that we get to overcome. And
Yeah,
then
true.
that rainbow at the end, the pot of gold, and being able to spread that sunshine.
So it's the hard parts that that give these stories the power to inspire.
Yes, absolutely.
If there's a choice not to go the victim mentality and that route, but to take charge. I call it live on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But to exercise our God-given agency to choose, what am I going to do with this thing that is productive and good and that creates value in this world, despite all of the darkness or evil that I've experienced.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that choice, that free agency. I think that's the greatest gift we've ever been given. But even like moment to moment to moment, we have choices. You know, we can be like stuck in victimhood for a moment, but we can then in the next moment say, you know what, I'm going to choose something different. And we might have, you know, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But what matters is if we continue in that higher direction where we leave more of the victimhood behind, then we become stronger. And again, it sculpts our character.
And thanks for mentioning that it's a process. It's not an event.
Yes.
So it's not like you're going to check this off of your list today.
Exactly.
You got to keep working on it.
Right. And, you know, I'm sure you've talked to your clients about this, but, you know, we are like onions. We have layers.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we could say
just
it
like
with Shrek.
Shrek.
We have layers. But it's true.
Or like a parfait.
That's right. So, but I think in our humanness, that's the juicy part of life. It's really, you know, juicy when we recognize, wow, I could live at this low level, this low vibration, or I could raise myself. I could do all kinds of, you know, wonderful, amazing, beautiful things with what I've learned. And to recognize that we're not bad, sick, and wrong when we have made a mistake, but to be able to use that as a learning tool for a better way of living.
Right. Juicy. I like that word.
Yes. I teach people to live juicy so they can write juicy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think most of people out there in the world, they live life from this space of, I just got to survive. I've got to eke my life out and survive. And I love to teach people about, you know, living in the honey and the nectar and the sweetness of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got hard stuff happening.
Yes, exactly.
Especially then. And what a great opportunity that becomes when you put it in that context.
Yeah.
This gives you the power to then go out and do something with it.
Yeah.
That's the message.
Yeah, because you know, the world thinks, oh, you know, if I just play it safe, then everything will be okay. You know, if I just play it safe, if I don't risk too much, then I won't get hurt. And if I don't love too much, then I won't be disappointed. You know, and if I don't strive too hard, then I won't have to fail. But, you know, because of my near-death experience, I know if today was my last day, would I want to go knowing that, wow, I had hung on, I had scraped by.
Just white knuckle it through.
Yeah, white knuckle it through. Or would I want to know that I had given it everything I have?
Yeah.
You know, that I'd made life really juicy and that I went with no regrets.
I love it. Near-death experience.
Yes.
You just kind of throw that in like it's... And I don't know how much you're here to talk about that today, Bridget, but those kinds of experience really add context, don't they?
Actually, they really do. It has colored my entire outlook on life.
I bet. Causes you to rethink some priorities.
Oh, absolutely. And also to see the world in a different way.
Yeah. To make sure that you're living on purpose.
Yes.
It's not just happening to you.
Exactly.
All right. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hi, my name is Chris Crone, and thank you for listening to Live on Purpose Radio. I became financially independent, starting from nothing, by the age of 26. My purpose is to financially liberate the captive. Are you searching for a realistic, proven system in real estate to create enough residual income to retire or fund your dreams? I invite you to learn about a passive, turnkey, proven system and approach to real estate where my team of 200 experts can do all the heavy lifting to create the freedom you're searching for. Visit www.liveonpurpose.strongbrook.com to get a free copy of my book, The Straight Path to Real Estate Wealth. Just enter the code FREE at www.liveonpurpose.strongbrook.com.
Thank you for listening to Live on Purpose Radio. We're so glad to have you here. Please come by the website, drpauljenkins.com, spelled with a DR, drpauljenkins.com. On the website, you'll have an opportunity to receive a free download. And while you're there, make sure you click on the social media icons. Come over to Facebook, where we will be posting these episodes as well as our YouTube videos and other content and announcements for you to share. Please like us, comment, subscribe, join the conversation. We're happy to have you with us here at Live on Purpose Radio. Let's all support each other to live on purpose. drpauljenkins.com.
Habits are first cobwebs, then cables. Spanish proverb.
I've thought several times, Bridget, that I should probably just roll the mics through the breaks because we have some fun conversations during the break times.
Conversations, yeah.
Okay, so we've set the stage here with hard things happen. That's not bad news. In fact, it's probably a really good sign that you're on top of an inspiring story, potentially.
Yes.
Depending on your choice. Mm-hmm. And I call it victim or agent. Those, to me, are the two choices that we always have, and we'll switch back and forth between them. Staying out of that victim mentality and making an agent choice puts us in position to create some really powerful things.
Yes, it does.
Now, I know we have limited time here today, which is kind of funny because it's a podcast and we can do whatever we want. But we've given our listeners an expectation. They're a half-hour show. So we're going to stick to that today. But before I let you go today, you have this unique expertise in bringing the stories out in a compelling way. You're an excellent author who's building credentials that are unmatched. And congratulations to you for that. Way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have some expertise you could share with our listeners, though, because everybody's got a story. And I know that some of our listeners are sitting on these stories.
Yes.
We're going to come around to some of the resources that you have to offer. Before we do that, could you give us a few pointers on where to start? Where do we go if we're sitting here with a story that is undeveloped, it's unwritten, and unshared until we share it? What would you advise? Where do you start? What do you do?
Well, here's the thing: is most writers struggle in getting it out on paper, and so a lot of what I do is I teach how to use the left brain and the right brain, and then how to pull that together in what I call the master brain. But one of the things that I would suggest is it's very therapeutic to get your story out on paper.
Yeah.
So no matter what, begin to write and write and write and write and write.
And you don't have to write well.
Exactly.
Is that true?
In fact, I tell a lot of people to turn their left brain off. The left brain is that part that says, oh, you couldn't, write a grammatically correct sentence to save your life. And, it's the one that you're not spelling anything right, but you just allow that to turn off and you write and write and write and write and write from your heart so that you get the juicy story out on paper.
So don't worry about punctuation, spelling, sentence structure. Doesn't matter at this point.
Not at this point, because you're pouring your heart out onto the page, and it's going to drip the essence of you. That's what's the juicy part. It's going to drip that of you onto the page. So it's like therapy, but it's also extremely powerful because those are the things that as humans we get interested in with each other. We want to know, how did it feel? And what were the thoughts and the feelings that were going through your mind as this was taking place and that kind of thing. But it also helps us to rediscover why we had certain behaviors and reactions to things. But then after you're all done, allow yourself to go back with your left brain and then clean up the grammar, clean up the spelling, take certain pieces and put one thing before the other so that it makes sense. You provide the skeleton and then you provide all the muscles and the sinews and everything else that will form that beautiful elephant,
So really this initial dump, and I'm resonating with this, Bridget, because I sometimes assign my clients to do something like this. And they're not planning on writing a New York Times bestseller.
Exactly.
They don't even want a book.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's not what it's for, because initially it's for you to connect with your own story.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I sometimes teach a workshop called Write to Heal and Heal to Write. And it's oftentimes in just getting it out on paper that people realize, oh, wow, I really have been through a lot and I really do have something of significance to offer others.
Yes.
And that's the beauty.
You can see it when you get it out on the paper.
Yes.
And there is something very therapeutic about that. And also, as we're discussing here today, potentially very beneficial to other people too.
Yes.
And you may choose to share it. But the first step then is to just get it out there where you can look at it.
Yes.
Where you can see it and experience it.
It provides you with a lot of personal power when you get your story out on paper.
Right.
And then you can choose. Do I just keep this within myself? Do I share it with, those that I'm really close to? Do I think I have something that I can offer to others? And that's all individual. It's, no one should tell you what you get to do with your story. But when you've decided, then you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's a whole process for that too.
Yes, there is.
As I've worked with people, Bridget, I've found that they don't tend to appreciate their own power.
Yeah.
And I mean the power of their story, but also just personally, who they are and what they're capable of. And I think that's because it comes so naturally to us personally that we don't appreciate the impact that it could have on other people.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, as you're well aware, we have, mental models or conditioning, training that we grew up with, whether that was parents or peers or church leaders or social conditioning or whatever that said, don't play too big, don't be too bold, don't be too beautiful, don't be too talented. Out. Yeah, exactly. And, one of Marianne Williamson's quotes is one of my favorites, where she says, who are you not to be? Brilliant, talented, gorgeous. We're all meant to shine as children do. I just love that.
And in doing so, as Marianne pointed out also, it gives other people the permission to do the same.
Exactly.
You're sharing your own story probably will trigger someone else doing that in a way that is going to have a huge impact on the world too. So there's this ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And we all get to lift and inspire and encourage each other as a result.
Well, and if you think about the stories through time that have inspired and encouraged you, it came from somewhere. It's how mankind has learned through the centuries.
Right.
And I love, Goddard said, the destiny of the world is determined less by the battles that are lost and won than by the stories it loves and believes in.
Yeah.
And so I love to ask people, what are the stories you've been telling yourself up to now? And what story do you get to move on with in the future? What new chapters are you going to write?
That's right. And realize who's writing it.
Exactly. Who holds the pen? Who gets to hold the pen?
So this hard thing that's happened in your life, yeah, it happened. Okay. That's content.
Exactly.
Right? Now, how does this end? That depends on the author.
Exactly. I told you I had a near-death experience, and I also had some other things that it was like, I had certain talents and abilities and a passion to bring people's stories to the page, but I had to determine if I was going to do what was expected of me or what I knew in my heart I got to do. And I had heard this quote by Mother Teresa, and I will always love it, and it's become a part of who I am and my mission. But she said, I am the pen in the hand of a God who is writing a love letter to the world. And I thought, wow, that's me, not Mother Teresa. But, that mission
that
in
really
life,
resonates with you, doesn't it?
It does. You can see it on my face. But I absolutely love that. And that is who I am.
Yeah. That really fits with what I know about you, Bridget. Because I look at these books, I'm looking at Skinhead Confessions, Shattered Silence. These are tough topics.
Yes.
But I think you're bringing out principles that are hidden beneath the ugliness that are so empowering and so potentially life-changing for people.
Right.
That I know that's what drives you. That's your passion and your purpose.
Exactly. Like I could be a true crime writer, and there's a lot of people that do that, and
Sure.
they expose all of the dark things. What I choose to look for and look at is, okay, what's the truth of the matter? But then where is the transformation? Where's the opportunities? Where are the possibilities? And then also, where did these people make these intrinsic choices
The choices, yes.
to overcome? And that's where the power lies in the stories, you know?
Right.
Just tremendous.
That power of choice, which is held by every person.
Yes.
I acknowledge that it is limited for some folks in certain circumstances. I'm thinking of severely handicapped children, for example, who have a different kind of a special gift.
Yeah.
And that's probably not our purpose to discuss that today. But for all intents and purposes, that power of choice is the common element
Right.
that allows you to take whatever story it is and create the ending that you intend. That's the neat thing about being an author.
It is the neat thing about being an author. I love it. I love it.
And what a great analogy for life, because we're all writing those chapters in our own book.
We are. I had a friend whose father, who I was close to, pass away. And he brought his entire family together at the end. And they were just sad because he was such an extraordinary man. They didn't want him to go. And he was a writer.
Sure.
And he said, every good book has a final chapter.
That's right.
I want to make the best of mine. And it was just lovely, but it was absolutely perfect. And he was not afraid of death because he had faced life.
Right.
And, you know, I get that being in this field and being able to write these stories, it becomes even easier to be able to take on life, the hard stuff, the juicy stuff, the the really gritty stuff and the really good stuff, and to be able to see it for what it is, and also the gifts that are inherent in all of it.
Right. So speaking of juicy, I know that you've used that word also in your coaching.
Yes.
As you assist people to bring out the juiciness in their life so that they can create a juicy book if they want to, or a story, or just whatever it is that they're going to do to live larger and become everything that is possible for them to become. And maybe I'm overstating it a little bit, but I think that's what you're up to.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure that our listeners have a way to get connected with you.
Wonderful.
You've got some resources available. Can you tell us a little bit about your website, what's available there, what they can expect if they visit?
Absolutely. I have a new website that's coming out as far as this when the release of this program. So I'm so excited.
Right. It'll be live when you hear this.
Live when you hear this. So it's called Bridget Inspires. And if you go to Bridget
Very
Inspires, you can learn about the venues that I'll be speaking at. And then also the books that I'm in the process of writing or have written. And then the writing workshops that I do and special writing tools so that people can write their own stories.
Okay, so you're doing workshops.
I have specialized retreats. So I have
wonderful.
I have some online webinars. I have one-day workshops, and then I have these beautiful retreats.
And folks, having written a book, let me just put in a little plug for this, because the hardest part is getting started. And a retreat would be a wonderful way to do that, because Bridget can inspire you to overcome whatever barriers you think are in the way and actually get started on this amazing story that you have. Yeah. And Bridget, you've also got some products available, other supports for people. So the website, Bridget, BRIDGET, inspires, just the way you would normally spell it.
Yep.
.com.
Yes.
Okay? BridgetInspires.com. Wonderful.
Yes. And in case you are interested in the Inspired Writers Retreats, if you go to inspiredlegacyretreats.com, it tells you all of our upcoming retreats.
Okay, inspiredlegacyretreats.com. We'll put up some links in the blog post also
I'd love that.
for this
Thank you.
show so that we can make sure people get connected. Folks, Bridget Cook, she is living on purpose. She's sharing inspiring stories just like we do here at Live on Purpose Radio. Take the time to connect with her, and especially if you sense that your own story could become one of those juicy, life-changing, life-altering, or at least meaningful to you sorts of things. She's your
And
person.
that matters
She
just
can
as
do it.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. Final words. Hopefully not totally final, but
Final words. Well, I would love to say that give yourself permission to break out of your box. Give yourself permission to think bigger and bolder and more juicy. And just live juicy. And then you can write juicy. It's wonderful.
there you go. Live juicy, write juicy, live on purpose.